Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Maggard. And as you can see, I'm on my own covering these quick recaps. Didn't think Dalton need to hop on here with this one, but he's going to be on, of course, when we post on Thursday. Actually, probably try to get the post up on Wednesday, so that's going to be coming soon tomorrow, actually, because there is some games on Thursday that are worth paying attention to and watching. So definitely want to try to get that video out early. Obviously, if you guys tuned into those five FBS games that took place this weekend, some really fun football. Some games that probably shouldn't have been as close as they were, and then some other really just fun games. But diving into the first one here, and I'll obviously start off with saying, like I always do, leave a like, subscribe, follow along, helps a ton. Keep up with the pod, and obviously looking forward to this season. It's gonna be a really fun one. I got a big game coming for Tech up soon. I guess we'll talk on that a little bit more on next podcast I post, which kind of again probably Wednesday or Thursday. But again, going to start with this first game here in Iowa State, Kansas State. Big time game. Was really important for the Big 12. Going to have a team in Kansas State who I had in my conference championship game dropping their first game of the season. And a lot of the issues that they had in this game that were issues that plagued them last year. And that was turnovers. They had a lot of turnovers in this game. Two fumbles, a muff punt, things you just can't do to beat a really good team in Iowa State. And then they also had a lot of penalties, and penalties is another thing that killed this Kansas State team last year. So, of course, those two big issues do end up kind of rearing their ugly head again, and we see Kansas State lose and probably played better football than Iowa State, other than the sloppiness that they had on those two things. And then Iowa State, of course, gets the big win here, puts themselves in a really good spot to be possibly a favorite in the Big 12. So we'll go ahead and dive into these stats. As you look on the Iowa State side, Rocco Becht, he does look like a superstar in that conference. He played really well in this game. I think a lot of the decisions he made were great. He ran the ball well in this game as well, which kind of showed you his dynamic ability because they had some plays drawn up for him to try to let him go out and make, one of those plays was a touchdown that he scored on, which was a really nice play, and like a kind of a counter play on the other side. Let their guard, pull out, let their tackle get down on the block, and let their tight end go out and push off a block. And he just perfectly fit the gap to run in for a touchdown. And it was a really nice play call and a really nice play by him. And then, of course, they had the big play at the end to win it, to finish it. And I love when a coach, he puts it on the line and he says, I'm going to win this game instead of play for, overtime or play for a tie. And he throws the ball out to Carson Hansen, who ends up getting the game-winning first down and getting down to like the half-yard line and realize, hey, we can just take three knees and get out of here with a win. So you see a 24-21 that could have been 31-21 probably. But again, really good performance from this Iowa State rushing offense in the second half. That's what won them this game. Carson Hansen, Abu Sama on the ground were incredible. It was just power ball. Let's see how many times we can run it down their throat. And Iowa State, again, if they can produce this kind of rushing attack this season with a passing attack that they're expected to have, this could be a really, really good football team. Again, you look at the receiving core, and this is their one returner from last year, and Brett Eskilson. Again, hard name to say there, but I'll learn it the more times I've watched them play. And then, of course, a lot of names on here that weren't with the team last year and being any kind of producer. So even though it did kind of, they were kind of playing some sloppy football too at Iowa State with their two fumbles, as you can see down here. They just won the turnover battle. They won on the ground, and that was kind of the big thing was their ability to run the ball. And Kansas State, a team that's supposed to be able to, you look at these rushing stats, they're not as pretty. They definitely aren't. You look at Joe Jackson having to step in and fill the shoes of, their superstar, Dylan Edwards, who gets hurt on the very first play he's on the field on a punt return where he muffs it and goes down with injury and doesn't return. That loss probably lost in this game because they didn't have the rushing attack that they, normally would have. You can see Avery Johnson didn't really get going on the ground. He got stuffed on a really big fourth down. That was a decision that I think lost in the game. Jace Brown had one really nice end-around play, but he didn't get going too much in the game. Other than, of course, his receiving game was awesome, but on the ground they didn't use him other than that one big play really. And then Joe Jackson, he did a fine job for coming in and filling in as the number two back, averaging 4.3 yards per carry. But again, it's just not what they want on the ground. And then you look at the passing game with Avery Johnson, and he actually has a really good game in the air. I think if you told a lot of Kansas State fans that Avery Johnson threw for 270 yards and two touchdowns and no picks, that they would have won this game. So the issues, of course, like I said before, they really hurt this team. Go down and look at some of these defensive stats. Names that pop off the sheet, of course, Donovan McIntosh. And then you look on the other side for Iowa State, and the pressure rate wasn't as high, but they were in the backfield a ton. As you can see, a ton of TFLs, racking up 7 total as a team. and that just kind of shut down the Kansas State rushing attack. So again, I think Iowa State has put themselves in a great position to try to run this conference now, try to be a top dog up there with Arizona State, and kind of dethrone Kansas State as the second best team in my personal opinion. And we'll see what happens the rest of the year. Does Kansas State bounce back and somehow recapture this? But I think that this is probably going to drop Kansas State out of the top 25 or maybe down to like 24th, 25th. And Iowa State, again, this is going to make them look really good in the conversation. They get a big win early, not at home. That definitely factors in late in the season whenever the committee looks at it. But again, great win from Iowa State, and we'll see what happens the rest of the year with them. Moving on to our second game on this slate, a game that if you didn't have the Mountain West app on your phone or on your TV, you couldn't watch this game. It was really odd that they had the second big game of the week not on TV. Everyone's fiending for college football, and of course, you don't have it out. So it was kind of odd. But again, we watched this Idaho State team that hasn't really been a super competitive team in the FCS push UNLV to the limit. UNLV ends up getting it done 38-31, but this is a very bad win. And everyone's a win, but you were projected to win by 29.5 points, and you won by 7 in a game that didn't look like you had control of it until the fourth quarter, which is just incredible. Maybe Idaho State's really good. Their quarterback, Jordan Cook, looked incredible at times in this game, but also made a lot of stupid decisions with the 3 interceptions. That probably, obviously, is what lost them the game. If they play clean football, they probably win this game against UNLV in their home building, which is just crazy. Again, maybe this team is really that good. And then Dason Brooks here, running back from Idaho State, looked incredible. I mean, he was running through people's faces in this game. 18 carries, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Look for him maybe having an incredible season in the FCS. Again, this was really impressive from him. And then obviously Ian Duarte is one of their multiple touchdown catches, but of course he was their lead receiver, 6 catches for 105. Again, really impressive performance from this team. I really, really don't know what Idaho State can do in the FCS. I don't follow it super heavily, but they look like a super fun team to watch in the FCS, if anything. And then you go to the other side. This is the side that a win's a win, but it feels really rough. And it feels like, hey, this is a team I said was a top contender out of the group of five. If that's their defense all year, they're going to get destroyed in some of these big time matchups in the group of five, especially that Boise game, who has a really good, consistent offense. Dan Mullen probably will figure things out. And I'm going to kind of really give him the benefit of the doubt and say this was his first game back. That's why they struggled so much. But this defense is kind of what cost them in a game last year. They can't have this kind of defensive performance anymore. It has to stop. You can't have this again. If they do, I do expect this team to be kind of out of the conversation as a group of five contender for the playoff if that defense is on the field. You talk about the quarterbacks. Alex Orji started the game, and he fumbled on his first drive into the end zone for a touchback. And after that, it kind of seemed like Anthony Calandria kind of locked down that job. He comes on the field, looks really good passing the ball, and then on top of that, looked great running the ball, which was kind of the thing I thought that Alex Orji would do for them. But Calandria, 13 carries, 93 yards, averaging 7 yards per carry, almost 200 passing yards, and a touchdown through the air. Really no mistakes. Threw a ball or two that was kind of overthrown or had a chance to maybe make it picked off or something to play on it. But again, I think he played really well. This is a guy that I thought had potential at UVA. I hate them, but I think he had potential, so I'm glad he slipped out of there because I just think he decent ability to play at this level, especially he'll do pretty good. Orji comes in and does certain things with the offense, as you can see, 6 carries, 34 yards, does have a touchdown, rushes really well on the ground. I think there's some interesting sets where they could put both of them on the field maybe and have like almost a wildcat, but as a quarterback, and Orji could pass the ball, so that would create something unique, of course. But it definitely looked a lot better on offense than on defense. You look at the rushing attack in general. Jaden Thomas was unbelievable. This might be your next super stud out of that conference, out of the Mountain West. Goes 10 carries, 147 yards, 14.7 yards per carry, with a 70-yard rushing touchdown. 3 touchdowns on the day. And again, a very impressive performance from him. And then you look at their receiving. Jaden Bradley is the lead receiver, 6 catches, 131 yards, no touchdowns, but he played really, really good. The kind of thing that you hate to see is a guy like JoJo Earl, who was a former Alabama commit and player, does nothing for you, a guy that you thought you might get something out of. Didn't do much for them, and I'm assuming they want more out of him, but when you have Jaden Bradley playing that good and your rushing attack being as good as it was, the offense wasn't the problem. You go down and you look at this defense, though, and you were able to get 1 sack on a FCS line against an FCS quarterback. That's scary. If you don't have pass rush, you are not going to win games. And then you look at the other side, and they have 3 sacks on your quarterbacks and 7 TFLs, more than you. And that's again, an FCS team that wasn't a top 25 SCS team. And they were destroying your offensive line. They were constantly scoring on your defense. That is worrying. That is definitely worrying. Again, the rushing attack was great for UNLV. I still have high hopes for this team because there's a lot of talent with Jaden Thomas, and I think Calandrio being a pretty solid quarterback. Jaden Bradley looks great, but it's going to be interesting to see what adjustments they make on defense because that is 100% necessary for them to do anything this year. Moving on to our third game on the slate. And this was a big one. Kansas kind of comes out and shows what November Kansas was last year, which was maybe the best team in the Big 12. That's how good they played down the stretch last year, and they looked awesome. Their defense completely shuts down this Fresno State team with E.J. Warner at quarterback. As you can see, he threw 2 picks. But also, their offense scores 31 points and just rolls. Everything looked clean, everything looked good. So that was really positive for Kansas, and this kind of gives me a little early hype on them with a great quarterback in Daniels. But we'll dive into the Fresno State stats first. EJ Warner, 18 for 29, 179, 2 interceptions. That's not great. That's kind of ugly, honestly. And I would have hoped to see more out of him. It does suck because it is cool for Kurt Warner to be his father, but he doesn't look like Kurt Warner. So he might end up doing something other than playing in the NFL someday. But again, the kid, he did have some success at other times, and maybe he will turn it around against, non-power conference teams. This is a tough one to face early in your first career start for Fresno State. You look at the rushing attack. This also didn't help him any. The rushing attack was it was nothing. I mean, he wasn't. Bryson Donaldson doesn't do anything in the rushing attack. Rayshawn Luke does absolutely nothing, going 7 carries for 11 yards. And again, some of that you could say is this offensive line not blocking for them. Second part could be Kansas does have a good ability up front to stop them, but that's really poor from Fresno. You look at Kansas. Jalen Daniels, 18 for 20, 176 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns through the air, gets 8 carries for 47 yards on the ground. This is a guy that could somehow find himself in a Heisman conversation with his ability to pass and rush the ball. So, super dynamic quarterback, doesn't have to do a whole lot to get things done, and 18 for 20 is incredible. If you're giving me that good of a completion percentage all year, I think you're going to win a lot of football games. They do run the ball well outside of him with Daniel Hishaw and LeSean Williams. Of course, 13 carries, 69 yards, 6 carries, 57 yards, and a touchdown. And then you look at their lead receiver in Cam Pickett with both, or 2 of his 6 catches come as touchdowns with 77 total yards. Really good game from him. And the defense absolutely shut down this Fresno team with 3 sacks, 10 TFLs, and 2 interceptions. Really, really well played from Kansas. This is a strong contender in the Big 12 this year. I really like what they got going down there, and Lance Leipold is definitely going to win a lot of games. Moving over to the next game we had here, and if you know Western Kentucky, you know that they are a pass-heavy football team. This team was pass-heavy for sure. Maverick McIver comes out, throws 33 for 51. 51 attempts is awesome. 401 yards, 3 touchdowns. Incredible game from him. He was awesome at his last stop, so coming in and performing this way is really impressive. You go look at Sam Houston. Tough loss early on in the Coosa. Team that can compete. Hunter Watson goes 19 for 30, 209, 1 interception, no touchdowns. Still think he showed a lot to me. His rushing ability, especially 14 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown. If he can, tone down the mistakes, don't throw the pick, and complete some more passes and throw that touchdown that you kind of didn't have here. I think there's still a lot left for him to do this year in the conference play, but it is a nice early win for Western Kentucky, gives them that jump start in conference play. You look at the rest of the rushing for Sam Houston. Alton McCaskill does really well too. 11 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. And so maybe they'll get those things going. They were kind of keeping up with Western Kentucky for some of this game, but it did look like Western Kentucky was the better team. And then you dive into the rushing stats at Western Kentucky, and Marvis Parrish is their lead rusher. We're not going to see McIver do very much in the rushing game. That's not his ability at all, but he is a complete gunslinger, and you can tell by looking at the receiver stats. Matthew Henry, 7 for 148 and a touchdown. Musa Berry, 6 for 90. Marvis Parrish, on top of his really good rushing day, has 6 for 58 and a touchdown. So this is a really, really great attack on offense, just scoring so many points. You do hate to see the two fumbles, and those things need to be fixed. But if they can correct that issue and not turn the ball over, man, they could have even ran away with this one even more. Had 2 sacks, 9 TFLs compared to 2 sacks and 7 TFLs from Sam Houston. But Western Kentucky gets things done. They're going to score a lot of points this year. They're going to be really, really good passing the ball, and I'm excited to watch Maverick McIver because who knows what this team can do with him at quarterback. And maybe they push for that CUSA championship, which is obviously what they want, and it's their final result. Moving on to our last game here, and this one, it might have been my favorite game of the night. It was so fun. This was just a really, really fun game. You watch Stanford. They're a team that they're a power school, and they didn't really look like it against Hawaii, who beat them with a hurt quarterback. And Rainbow Warrior. Well, Micah Alejado is 100% a Warrior because that guy was fighting through a pretty tough ankle injury, it appeared, and still had an awesome game. Before he gets hurt, he was, I believe, 16 for 19 passing the ball. Had a touchdown at that point. Really incredible game. He's a really, really highly touted freshman quarterback for them. They expect a lot out of him, and 2 starts, 2 wins in college, 2 incredible starts, and really again hasn't made any real mistakes. And even when he was hurt, he was really, really putting it on for his team. Had like a 14-yard rush for a first down while he was injured, and it was an ankle injury. So really, really impressive. Then you dive over to Stanford's passing attack with Ben Gulbranson, and he looked like a guy that transferred into Stanford. This guy, 15 for 30, 109, and an interception. The pick was actually an incredible play from the Hawaii defender. Edge rusher jumps up and picks off a little short route, and just an incredible pick. But Gulbranson did not look like he can win games for this team. They don't look like much of a competitor at all in power conference play. And I said Stanford was going to be horrible. This is probably another 2-10 or 3-9 Stanford team. They looked really bad at times. And again, they're a power team that have power players, and you can't go beat Hawaii with a wounded quarterback. That's pretty rough. I do like Stanford's rushing attack, however. Michael Ford, a guy who Dalton was really going to praise in the video last week if he'd have been on, 26 carries for 113 yards and a touchdown. He is a pure power back. He was running through people's faces left and right, and it looks like he could be something for them in the future. But what are the odds they hold on to this kid? You know what? He probably hits the portal at the end of the year and goes and finds real production somewhere else. Then you look at their receiving attack. When your quarterback only throws for 109 yards, there can't be much to be done down here, as you don't see much going on. You look over again at Hawaii. Talked about Alejado and how awesome he was in this game, but you look at Cam Barfield. Really good game from him on his 6 carries. Probably would like to see him get the ball more, but Hawaii passes the ball a ton. As you can tell, he had 40 pass attempts nearly on an injured leg. So they were just letting him rip it. So, of course, if that's what they're going to do all year, that's what they're going to do. But I liked Barfield in the backfield. And then you look at the receiving core, and Pofeli Ashlock had an awesome game. 9 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown, but that doesn't tell the full story. He made multiple really good plays. And again, he kind of bailed them out at times when they needed him to. I expect a lot out of him this year. He looked incredible from the balls that Alejado were throwing him. And then Jackson Harris has a good game, 6 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown as well. And again, expect these guys to kind of show up on leading receivers maybe because how much Hawaii throws the ball. And if Alejado is healthy, he's going to be letting it rip all the time. You see the one mistake from Alejado. He does have the fumble. Again, that's a fixable problem. And if he's not injured, maybe that doesn't happen. Of course, the injury happened while he was taking a scramble out of the pocket. So it would be interesting to see if they try to keep him safer, although his legs are going to be part of his attack this season. You dive down and look at the defenses. There's really not a lot to write home about Hawaii's defense, and that's probably why this game was closer, is they weren't really getting in the backfield and making plays at all. And then you go over and look at Stanford, who had 4 sacks, 5 TFLs, but it still wasn't enough because, again, Hawaii was able to move the ball up and down the field with a hurt quarterback. And again, that concerns me so much for this Stanford team, who I don't expect to be very good. And now you can kind of see why I thought that way about them. And then last but not least, you kind of have to go down and give props to their kicker. He learned how to kick on YouTube, and he hits 3 field goals, including the game winner, and that's really awesome. Really cool story for Hawaii, and kind of the biggest story of that game is, hey, this kid learned how to kick on YouTube and wins the game with a, not hard field goal at the end of the game, but, all that pressure, he was able to put it in, and Hawaii gets it done. This is a really fun team. I'm really high on them in the conference. I believe if Alejado is healthy, they can, push to win games. Not saying that they're going to win a conference, or not going to say they're going to make a playoff, obviously, but they are going to be fun to watch, and that's really cool for Hawaii and finally being back in their home stadium. And again, it's just really cool for that team. that wraps it up for this one. That's all I've got this week. 5 games. They were all pretty fun to watch. All really pretty close games, except for Fresno, Kansas, which ended up being a blowout because Kansas did really kind of show how good they can be this season. And I kind of, after watching that game, expect a lot from them. I expect them to be a top 5 team in conference. They have a great quarterback returning. They have a great head coach. So there's definitely a lot to be done for that Kansas team who expects a lot better than last year because once they got to November, they were the team they were thinking they were going to be, and they ended up winning a lot of games at the end of the year and actually ruined a couple seasons for some teams. But that is going to be all for this week. Look out for another video coming on either Wednesday or Thursday. That will be our predictions, our first 10 games of week 1, and our first time talking about Tech and Tennessee because those two teams obviously being featured at the end of the pod. Again, thank you guys so much for joining. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. Again, I love this kind of content, and I want to do this for a job someday. So it'd be really cool if I was able to show this to a future employer, and that definitely helped me out a little bit if I could. Again, if you guys have anything you want us to do, leave it down in the comments. That always helps us figure out, what kind of content do people want to see. But again, I appreciate the following and like, subscribe, follow along, and peace.